if a person commits suicide and does not complete his purpose in this world, does he ever come back here to complete it?
I don't know what he means by he returns. Of course, his soul is uncorrected and it returns. And that's how it is with each and every one of us. None of us complete the correction in our short lifetime. But time and time again we return in order for the soul to complete what it has to do on one of its incarnations and not have to incarnate again.
So it doesn't matter really if a person committed suicide or just died a natural death, if someone hasn't completed...
No. If he commits suicide, it means that he doesn't want to take part in the correction. That's actually the problem. But if he dies a natural death, it means that from above he was prevented from continuing the correction. That's the difference. But eventually, the sum total is the same. He has to return.
Let's expand on this for a bit, if we can. What do you think causes a person to commit suicide in general?
Oh, well, that could be psychological problems having to do with the root of the soul. There are many reasons for it. Envy, lust, honor, psychiatrical problems, big despair that a person senses these days in our world. You see, suicide is on the rise, especially in Europe.
Yeah, precisely in all the wealthy countries, it seems to happen.
Yes, not in Africa.
Does it have anything to do with spirituality? If a person commits suicide, does it have to do with...
Yes. We've reached a state where our will to receive, with respect to all that we have in this world, towards all that we have on earth, it's not satisfied by it. Our will to receive as if wants to break out higher, upwards, someplace, but it doesn't know where. It's somewhere in between this world and the spiritual world. The spiritual world has not yet opened up before us in order for us to keep developing there. And in this world, we feel that it's not worthwhile investing your strength and powers into it. And then when we're in between, we have nothing to enjoy. We have no point in living. We don't have a reason to continue with this life, even though this life isn't really that much suffering. But when there's no purpose, it doesn't matter whether there's suffering or not. The lack of purposefulness, the question of why, what for, that actually takes a person out of life and he commits suicide.
But you know, it does look like people are still trying to enjoy so many things in this world. You know, this was the year that people bought so many cars than ever before.
Of course, we create an endless amount of pleasures merely to confuse ourselves in order for us not to think that our life is empty. What can you do? But eventually, we can't succeed. In previous generations, yes, we made revolutions in human society, technological revolutions, we went to the moon, whatnot. Today, it's no longer appealing. What for? And there's no answer to it. I simply don't want it, don't need it. I don't think that it will give me something. On the contrary, it will give me greater emptiness. Why start to begin with if at the end of the path, once again, I'll see emptiness, nothing? And thus, a person has no idea why to leave home. You see, there are many people who prefer give him a bit of something in order to survive and he won't leave home.
Yeah, it's true. Going back to the suicide issue for a second, I wanted to ask whether you said something like that. I'm not sure I heard it correctly. If a person commits suicide, does it go against the nature, against the plan of creation?
Yes, it is against the plan of creation because it's forbidden for a person to commit suicide. Each and every moment he has to see that now, in this world, at this present moment, he can perform actions that he will not be able to perform in any other way. actions that have to do with the correction of his soul. And specifically in this world, can you correct the soul? In this world, a person can bring himself to a state where the spiritual world opens before him and he keeps on living thus that he rises from the plane of this world to the next plane, the plane of the spiritual world. He keeps on going there and doesn't feel that he dies. His body dies, but he, in the meantime, has risen to a spiritual degree. He starts feeling the spiritual world, and thus he no longer identifies himself with his body. He doesn't feel connected to it, and the body dies. So it dies, so what? But the I, in the meantime, I started feeling myself in a higher form of existence with which I identify myself with, and in it I live and exist. And you can take the body, no problem. To an extent to which a person doesn't feel that the body is dying and it's as if suffering. No, doesn't feel that.
A Kabbalist doesn't feel physical suffering?
Depends. Whether he's led to feel it or not, that's a question. But usually, no. He doesn't feel death as something painful.
This is interesting. You know, there are stories about Rabbi Akiva, I believe.
That's not the point of death. He was killed, murdered, cut up with knives. That's something else. I'm talking about this corporeal, bodily life leaving a person.
Okay, and such a suffering, torments like that story about Rabbi Akiva.
That, of course, undoubtedly, that he feels that.
Okay.